Welcome to Politically Speaking, a program designed to bring you, our viewers, an inside look into the political arena at the local and state level. I'm Kim Stanley, Vice President of Operations for Cox Roanoke. I'm joined by my co-host today, Tori Williams, Vice President of Public Policy at the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce. The Virginia General Assembly recently adjourned their annual legislative session. Lawmakers considered thousands of bills and amended the state's biennial budget. This year, our lawmakers also returned to Richmond for a special session on redistricting state House and Senate seats, as well as Virginia's 11 congressional districts. Senator John Edwards, representing the 8th District, which covers the counties of Craig and Giles, as well as part of Montgomery County, Pulaski County, the city of Roanoke, and Roanoke County, joins us in the studio today to tell us more about this year's session. Senator Edwards, welcome to the show.
Thank you. 21st District.
21st
That's
District.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that clarification, and good to see you as
Thanks
always.
for having me.
Yeah,
Thanks,
absolutely. Tori?
Senator Edwards, you supported a budget amendment this year that will create what's called a bus bridge from Roanoke to the Lynchburg Amtrak station. Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
That's right. I was really pleased we got $150,000, which will help the locality in localities, I should say, to develop a bus that would go from Blacksburg to Roanoke and then on to Lynchburg to connect up with the Amtrak train that the Governor Kane got started almost 2 years ago. That Amtrak train going north starting about 7:38 in the morning in Lynchburg has been very successful. They expected about 51,000 passengers. The first year they had 125,000 passengers. So there's a great demand for this Amtrak passenger train going north to Washington on up to New York. And the idea of connecting Blacksburg and Roanoke with Lynchburg to hook up to that train would be to not only help people to make the connection, but show there's a demand for rail passenger transportation in Western Virginia. And I think most people think there's going to be a tremendous demand. People are already taking that train, but it's inconvenient to drive and where you're going to park, and sometimes you have to spend the night in Lynchburg. But this will mean so you can get up in the morning and take a bus rather, from starting in Blacksburg on 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That will help the students up there and others who want to take the Amtrak train. But then leave Roanoke probably around 6 or so in the morning and arrive just in time to connect up with that Amtrak train. I think people are going to find it very, very helpful. And again, if we can show this really works and there's a demand and a market for rail passenger in Western Virginia, that will lead ultimately toward having a rail passenger transportation from Lynchburg west to Roanoke, and hopefully eventually on down to Bristol.
That'd be good. Well, speaking of transportation, a lot going on with the transportation bill, although we did have some good things that happened this session.
We did.
We still have some long-term funding to talk about, and I know that in the past you've supported gas tax. Where do you think we go long-term? What other alternatives do you see?
Well, we have a $1 billion annual shortfall in transportation for Virginia. The governor's bond package will help in the short term, but it's like a Band-Aid. Long term, we've got to find a solution, and nobody really has come up with a credible solution to solving the transportation crisis. The last time we raised the gas tax was 1986, and our gas tax is much lower than any of the states around us, and the roads are better. We're having more potholes, we're having more congestion. Interstate 81, of course, part of the solution there is to move more of the freight traffic from trucks to trains. And that's happening, although it's a lot slower than I would like. But eventually we have got to solve the problem with transportation if Virginia's going to grow. Northern Virginia is locked in congestion. Hampton Roads area is congested. We're having some congestion even here in the Roanoke Valley. But more than that, we also need to improve the roads in Western Virginia and in the rural areas. And the only way to do that is to increase the funding. Everybody agrees. We need about $1 billion new money every year. Where's it coming from? And people have been tinkering around the edges. I think people are beginning to realize the only real solution, at least a major part of the solution, has got to be raising the gas tax. And I'm hoping that eventually, I think the public, I know the business community is behind it. People in Northern Virginia and other parts of the state are very much behind it. People in the rural areas understand. I think we need to solve that problem. I got a letter a year ago when we were having the snow problems from Craig County in a very rural area. And the man said, why don't you raise the gas tax? Why can't VDOT get the snow moved, and it's because of the lack of funding. So funding is a critical long-term problem, and we've got to figure out a way to get around that.
Right.
Transportation is obviously a key to economic development, but so is higher education.
Absolutely.
Can you share with us some ideas on how to ease rising tuition?
Absolutely. Higher education has been a major interest of mine. I, of course, represent Virginia Tech, but also chair the Roanoke Higher Education Center. And I think one of the solutions to solving the problem of affordability and access to higher education is the higher education model. A number of years ago, a group of Congress people came to Roanoke and had pronounced the Roanoke Higher Education Center as a new model for the new millennium, meaning this is a model to deliver higher education offerings to people who are sort of place-bound, who can't necessarily go away to a residential school. You know, college and universities are not just for the 18 to 22-year-olds onlys anymore. It's also for those who want to go back, 28, 38, 48, whatever the age, to get additional degree or a certificate or additional programs. And the Roanoke Higher Education Center has been a real model. We've given away 5,800 degrees in the last 10 years since it opened up in 2000. 2,800 students approximately each semester take courses there from 12 senior colleges and universities. It's basic education, plus the community college and other programs that are being offered there. So the Higher Education Center model is, I think, one way to make affordable access to quality higher education. The other model that the General Assembly has been promoting is the community college system, encouraging the 2+2 system. Go to the community college for 2 years, and if you apply and get in a senior college, you can, the same tuition at the community college system will apply to the 3rd and 4th year of college. It's a new program we started. Senator Walter Stosh carried the bill a few years ago. I was very supportive of that. We got some funding about a year ago. So the combination of using the community college as the entranceway to a 4-year school, along with the Higher Education Center model, are two ways to make more higher education more affordable and more accessible to more people, which is really critical in this 21st century.
It really is. That's great to hear. And we're almost out of time, so let's skip to redistricting real quick, because that's on our viewers' minds. Why don't you speak quickly to redistricting, any changes, and how you think the process is going?
Well, the process is going along as would be expected. The House has a plan that's going to favor the incumbents in the House. The Senate has a plan which you can expect is, the Republicans think is less favorable to them. But the fact is, it's a fairly, I think, a very fair, balanced system that we've come up with. In fact, in the Senate plan, 28 of the 40 Senate districts were won by Bob McDonnell in the last election. 23 were won by Governor Kane when he ran and won in 2005. So I think it's a very balanced approach. Unfortunately, we're going to have to lose a state Senate seat in Western Virginia. They're losing a state Senate seat in Hampton Roads, too, all because Northern Virginia population has grown so much more than we have.
Right. Always good to see you. Always good to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate so much what you're doing. Thank you.
Coming
up after the break, we'll take an in-depth look at the redistricting process and hear from an expert on its potential impact on our region.